everyone. So I'm here again. I wasn't sure if it was working because it was over 3 minutes and nobody commented whether the picture and the visual, the sound and the visual was okay. So I ended it, but then I heard from somebody it was okay. So if you see me and hear me, please can you comment, because only then I can start the session. I know it was working before, but I just want to make sure that it's all good, then I can always relax after that. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So just waiting for somebody to come on and let me know that it's all good. Great. Thank you, Sean. You are my savior. I appreciate it so much. Thank you, Terry. Hi, Terry. You could make it. That's wonderful. That's great. I'm sorry it's a bit later than I thought, but it's not too late. Late in the UK, but it's not too bad. So I'm wonderful that you can join me. So great. So I'm here now. So let us center ourselves before anything, just to affirm, reassure that we hear. We hear in the spirit, we hear completely, fully and completely present. We're leaving everything behind, whatever happened to this day, on this day, or whatever is yet to happen. And if we're able to join this live session, or even if we watch the replay, we just put aside this time for being fully present. So let us just close our eyes for a moment and be very present. Wonderful. So first, we're going to do a meditation, as I said, but before that, like always, I really would like to read out loud some passages by Robert, just to honor him that he left us with such treasure, and none of this could happen without him leaving us what he has. So we're just going to read out loud some passages and really feel into them. That will set the tone for the session and will make us even more open. So I'm just going to get to that. I think if he would be here, maybe he would be saying this to us, or perhaps this is what was coming to me. So, all of us sitting in this room are at a different stage of consciousness. Some of us are more advanced than others, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what you're doing with your life. No one in this room should believe that the world has any power over you whatsoever. You are the power. If you feel the world or some situation has power over you, it's because you have given the power. Where else would it come from? The world, the universe by itself is passive, neither good nor bad. It is you that makes what it is. We are always seeing ourselves. We are seeing what we are. There are no sinners. There is no evil. Everyone is a child of God. When you realize you are God's child in God's infinite goodness and love, and you work on that, you will find soon that you are God. You are the infinite goodness and love. It is you. But you have to work from where you are coming from. If you have to pray, pray. If you have to meditate, meditate. If you have to do a mantra, do a mantra. Do whatever you need to do to raise your consciousness. And the last passage, last paragraph. And please let us hear this because he's speaking to us. You are a very unique being. You are unique because you have within you fantastic power. After all, you created this illusion. You created this Maya. It came out of you. The power that you have created, all of these things, that's where it's coming from. If you wish to uncreate everything, you have to put yourself in reverse. Just like a car, and go back to the source. When you return to the source, you will find that you were never a human being. There was never a world. There never was bondage and liberation or liberation. There never was a God separate from yourself, and you are free. So these were the opening. When Margaret is here too, wonderful. It's so great you could make it, Margaret, wonderful. So this is how we start. And very soon we're moving into this in-depth meditation that I promised you, that I found so essential to do every single morning. That is the first thing we do, and it's not really a meditation. It is more like a realization every single day, to realize over and over again who we are. And the reason for that is because the way it works is, if we don't do this, if we don't act on the pointings of Robert, that upon awakening we acknowledge the unborn self, that only the unborn self is here, and then the senses will be playing up throughout the day that I'm not there, unless and until we make a conscious recognition of that upon awakening, we will be taken hostage by the mind, by the world mind, by its influences, the suggestions throughout the world. And the only way to make ourselves immune to that is to take our stand, the true stand, very powerfully, and every single morning really literally realize that we are not in the world, we've never been in the world, I have not been born, never will be born. Because the way it works is, it's, we can imagine that the mind is not real, right? It's the mind, but it's not real. But in this world, it seems really real and very powerful. And say there is like 8 billion, so-called human beings, and we are all connected to that so-called world mind or race mind in a way, and all of the suggestions, the fears, the worries, the mesmerism, the hypnotism is being constantly broadcast, into our individual consciousness, into our individual so-called mind, every second of the day. And if we are not home, so to speak, meaning if we are not self-aware, being aware to be the unborn self, if we are not aware, then we will be victimized in a way by the suggestions. And the only way to become immune to it, to nullify the suggestions, is by this exercise. Now, there is something that I really would like to share with you today before we get to this exercise, because in my own awakening experience and constant ongoing deepening experience, I feel like it's very, very important, the understanding. As I said, everything goes back to understanding. Now, the essence of Robert's teaching, and that's the whole essence of it, is that not to react. This is what he's saying in every transcript, every recording, everywhere, not to react. And I know that you are just like myself, like wholeheartedly. We just want to abide, right? Because once we know the pointings, once the pointings are in front of us, we just want to abide. We just want to do the right thing. We don't want to react. And yet, there is reaction in us. There is constant reaction to the things. Maybe we understand and for a moment we say, yes, 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 I abide. 5 minutes down the track, I lose my phone, the car breaks down, something happens, and there is a reaction. And what I would like to point out now, why is it that we're not able to not react? Like, why is it that we continue to react? And it goes down to vibration. And then this is why it's very important, the meditation we do today, because it will take us into the timeless self, beyond time, timeless self that we are, which means unborn self. Because once there is time, once there is a belief in being born, then time comes, past comes, future comes, baggage comes, thought comes. And this is what we need to understand. Like, once we believe that we are body mind, we identify as matter. Everything that we see, we perceive ourselves with the human eyes that appear to us, matter, is kind of vibrating. It's got some kind of vibration. And all of the suggestions that come to us from this universal mesmerism, hypnotism, the thoughts, the fears, is coming to the sense of self that I think I am. Because what we need to see, that this person sitting on the chair right now where you are listening is no different than maybe the chair or a lamp or something you see over there in front of you. It's the same thing. It's got no life in it. It's got no substance in it. And that's why every time something comes into life, so-called gets born, it goes into decomposition, dying, because it hasn't got the life of God, the self hasn't got the substance in it, right? So this is one point that I would like to make to start with, that this is how we perceive ourselves. Matter is like that. And just like everything vibrates, the chair, like everything that is like a matter vibrates, this so-called me, that I call myself Palma or John or Mary or whoever, is also vibrates. And because it has got no existence, it's only energy, right? So when the suggestion comes, the condition in this world comes, and this is the saying, like, react not, like, do not resist evil, don't react, don't resist. But the reason why we resist it, because it comes to us and we are in a state of vibration, and then our vibration is kind of reacting to the vibration suggestion that comes. And for us to be able to recognize and ultimately remain as the onboard self, we have to come into a state of no vibration. That is the only time we will not be reacting to suggestions. But the state of vibration, the only way we can come to a state of no vibration, vibrationless being, that the self is, the only way to abide in the true self, that having no vibration, if we are in a state of no thought, because thought has got vibration. So that is the key. That is the key to move out throughout the everyday so-called life experience or experiences, is to remain totally not identifying with what's happening. There was a post I put up the other day, and Robert is always making a very strong point of that. He's not asking you to, or asking us to leave our parents or our job or something. Renunciation is only mentally. So we have to kind of, there's not a lot of things we need to learn, but get good at this, that like we are walking in this world but not of it. So the body will be going here, doing this, doing that, taking actions, but there has to be the true self always so much in awareness, knowing that nothing is happening to that self. So if we are able to remain not identifying with the self-thought, then if we have got no thought, then there is no vibration, and when the suggestion from the mind comes throughout the day, then it will hit up against a wall that is just nothing there, and there will be no reaction to anything, and that's when karma and everything else falls away. And what is very, very big help for us to be able to stay in that vibration, with no vibration, is to be in that timeless self. Because once we believe that we were born, then the mind comes and everything else comes. So I don't know whether what I've just added made a little bit of sense. To me, this was extremely helpful throughout the years, the past 2 years especially, the understanding that if I'm in a state of thought, if I'm thinking, then when the suggestions, the conditions come to me throughout the day, there will be a reaction. But as I'm able to stay stillness, this is what the meaning of stillness, be still and know that I am God. If I'm able to remain still, then the suggestion comes, but they just nobody there to receive it. And because nobody there to receive it, to react to it, the illusion will not take root, and it falls away, and that's how karma and everything falls away. So I just wanted to add that because I felt that was important for me, extremely helpful in my understanding and in my consecutive practice. And the next thing is, okay, so now we understand we gotta be in no thought. Okay, but the thought is going, I'm constantly in the thought. The thoughts are not problem as long as I'm not identifying with the thought. I am not the thinker of the thought, they're just coming, and you forever remain the witness until even the witness falls away. So having said all this now, let us get centered in our being, and we're going to go in this little journey of truly identifying as the unborn self. And today is the last day of the year, here where I am anyway, the 31st of December. And we are entering a so-called new year, but we need to know that everything that is coming into time, into future, is only a concept, a mind concept, because the self doesn't know anything about it, so it's only to the so-called sense of self that a new thing comes. And we will be touching this in a minute after the meditation, but I would like to bring it forward that how many of us is making New Year's resolutions, because in the deepest part of our heart we long for change, we long for a different year, but we need to understand that our tomorrow will be exactly what we put in today. The way I move through this day, with my attitude, with my awareness, with my reaction or non-reaction, is exactly what my tomorrow will be, and so is next year. And it's really beautiful when we would like to make New Year resolutions and all that, as long as we have the understanding that every intention comes from the egoic self. It's not possible for the egoic self to say, I'll do it differently. From next year, I stop doing this, I stop doing that, because we need to see that everything, every word that is being made, the reason why it cannot be kept up, because it's made by the same conditioned self. It's made by the conditioned self, and wanting to rise above the condition, but it's made by the conditioned self. So as beautiful as it is to make a resolution and say, I'm not going to react, it's going to be different, it's not possible. The only thing we have, and the only power we have, and what we have right here and right now, is to be the self, without contortion, without practice, without time process needed, That is the only time there is only oneness and not duality. So I just wanted to add that before we get into the meditation. So now, let us get centered. Close our eyes. This is something we can use every morning upon awakening, and you can listen to the tape again if you find it beneficial this way until you no longer need it. So say you were in bed, you just woken up, and before the mind gets busy, before it leaves the heart and races to the brain, we make this acknowledgement right now that I am the unborn self. The unborn self is here, is present. And where we want to go now, the most important is to get in touch with that timeless realm. I am the timeless self. There is no time right now. Forget who you are, forget your name, just for the next few minutes, the place where you are, you find yourself, your responsibilities, your roles, everything. And just be here without a past, and feel into what it feels like to have no past. Nothing has ever happened. And not only there is no past, but there is also no future, not waiting for anything. There is no next. There is no next. I am the unborn self, and right now in the eternal now. The eternal now encompasses all past, present, and future. Everything is now. The self is now. The peace is now. Joy is now. Completeness, fulfillment is now. If I don't have it now, I never will, because the self is not in the tomorrow or 5 minutes from now. It's right here and right now. I am the unborn self. The unborn self is here, and that's the only thing that is here, there, everywhere. We establish our identity as the spiritual, invisible, infinite, indivisible, everywhere present self, omnipresent, which means there is no place where I am not. There is only one life, and it's the life of self. In a deeper sense, no life, but we say there's only one life. And I am the self of every being, everyone I encounter today, or I have encountered in the experience of the day, was my very own self. I am the only self. Now, unless we feel this, we don't have it. This is how we step out of the world in preparation for the daily experience that is to come. And stepping out of the world meaning I have never been in the world. We could say we step out of the body, but the deepest sense, we never been in the body. So we just recognizing our true position as the everywhere present, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent self. No past, no next. There is a place in consciousness where we can find this contact when nothing has ever happened. Once it is found, it's got a signature vibration of no vibration, of course, but it is felt, and that's what we take with us every single day. Now, the unborn self is established. There is something that can be very helpful to step out of the thought process and into the timeless self, and to realize there is no time, that for example 2000 years ago is right now. Before the Christ was, Abraham was, before Shiva, before even my so-called earthly mother came into incarnation, it is now. Everything that has ever seemed to have taken place in life is right now, right now. And this takes us out of the realm of thought. It's only now, here and now. The next principle Robert touches on is, we're just going in this order as it comes to me now, that there is really no cause for anything. There is no cause for anything. The senses are only images, sense images, and they are powerless. Throughout the day, I will be tasting, hearing, touching, feeling, yet it will be just happening, but there will be no receiver of it, no experiencer of it. It's not who I am. None of that what the five senses testify who I am. In a sense, we are realizing right now the truth of our being by realizing who we are not. We are nothing that we see, feel, touch, none of that. And what remains is who I am. Nothing that I will be seeing today or hearing today is the truth, is reality. I remain mentally connected to the one and only self in the thoughtless state, while the images are moving by, the sense images, but there is something that is not moving, and that is I am. It didn't come, it didn't go. I have always been here, and I will always be here. The only one thing that is not changing is the self I am. this is what we do before our day start. We can be a shortened version, but we definitely go through the 4 principles, and there has to be even though there is no experience and no experiencer, it has to be a reality of what we're doing. If it remains on the mental level, it's a good start, but it's not the end of it. It has to be an experience, and with ongoing so-called practice, there is an openness, and there will be a realization. And once this is established in the morning, I think it's really, really important, like to have a momentary reflection, maybe once of every hour. Just take maybe 60 seconds or even 30 seconds to remind ourselves that I am the unborn self. None of that what this 5 says testifies is true. I'm just not affected by any of that. None of that touches the self that I am. And that is how we move out of this mesmerism, and as we abide in the self in this way, then something is away. The beautiful, the true self that we are is beginning to expand, and there is substance to it, and there will be a reality to it, and then the so-called non-real self is shrinking until it's completely disappearing. So this has been my offering to you that I do, and it makes a really, really big difference every single day. If I don't do it, if I wouldn't do this, because we connected to the race mind and the suggestion comes whether we like it or not, then we just go out as a human being and we'll be hit many times, we lose our center. We really have to have that establishment, that grounded and rooted in our essential self, starting first in the morning. So that has been that part, and now we can open our eyes, and I can see some more people joined us. It's wonderful, more beings, more people here. There's only the one self here, so it's amazing. So now we're going to get to the questions and answering those questions. Again, I would like to make a very strong point of the importance of releasing the disgraced self. We're entering a new year, which is only the new in the mind, of course, but it's always nice to press the reset and start all over again, and then have that intention in a way to be the self. And we need to know that's the only intention we can really, really have, because anything that the ego makes up its mind, I'm not gonna eat that food, I'm gonna do that, it's bound to fail, because the conditioned self is doing that. And this has to be seen. And that brings me to the first one that I would like to touch on, Marseille Dea Fay. I'm hopeless pronouncing names, but in a way, so you have to teach me, but I'm doing my best. So she was the one we talked to at the last session with her questions about the manifestation process teaching, and she commented that so glad as I need it now. I'm ready to let go of the resistance and attachment to fear or of lack. I am thrilled to listen to you as consciousness. This is my intention for 2024, merge with consciousness. And this is really beautiful that you said that, and I'm not picking on anyone, that, I'm just coming with really love and just pointing out so that it would save you, perhaps, if you're open and receptive, and then perhaps there's an agreement to what I'm saying, it saves you maybe months and even years, perhaps, to see that we cannot intend, even as beautiful as it is, to merge with the self, because who is speaking here? It is the personal I, this personal sense cannot merge with the self, and all it can do is disappear. But I recognize your beautiful, pure intention, and I know that behind it all is that purity of intention to be the self, so to be the self. As long as we are clear on that, you're ready for that, and that is really beautiful, and I bless you for that. That is really beautiful. By the personal I, the self would never make a you know why I'm saying it's a personal I? Because the self would never make a statement that I'm ready to merge, with the consciousness. So who is making the statement must be the personal sense, but the personal sense can never really merge because it's not even there. So best to say is that for from this moment on, I'm totally wholeheartedly committed, to be the self. But even to say that, anything that we say, the words are just words, really. It just implies to. But as long as we just intend to be that one already without any time process, that's the most important. So and then you also added, thank you so much for your answer to your question. It helps so much to re-identify even more fully with the self. And then you say that the I is done now. That's wonderful. I mean, Robert does say that you have to feel disgusted with this world. We only really gonna kind of move on and stop identifying, and then in a way when there is so much disgust from this duality, the good and bad, and we just don't want to take part of that anymore. So in a way, this is the way sometimes suffering serves us, because there comes a moment when we just no longer try anymore. We just done, and come what may come. So that's really beautiful, and thank you for watching. And I know I know that you're going to be doing really well. And then as you are able to stop continuing that field of work that no longer resonate in your heart, something will open up, because this completeness is here. But guys, the reason why sometimes we don't feel, or we don't experience the fulfillment of our heart desire, or even the everyday need, is because we are seeking in time. We think the belief system behind it cannot come now. It will come sometime in the future, but there is no future. The self is now, and this is the expression of the love of the self. Love yourself, love God, love the self, is to accept that here and now. But here and now means beyond time. And if we fall into the trap to wait for something to come to us, or to fall away, if we think it needs time, we just left the self. And that's why we're not taking part of the God-given or the birthright in a way, the natural completeness and fulfillment, because we're waiting in time. Right now is here. The truth is so simple. It's just really hard for the mind to comprehend that. It's everything is just a matter of acceptance, here and now. Here and now. So thank you. So there was another question, and I'm just checking everything's good. Yes. If any issue with the recording, anytime, you guys can call me on Messenger. But so I'm here to the next question, and this one was from Eddie, who I found out that his real name is Patrick, and from Europe, and he said, Palma, all questions are shrinking. Just one for now. How to deal with people, okay, they are not there in reality, that are present in your life situation, but for example, some neighbors, some family members, or even parents. But as a person, you prefer to have no contact longer again, because they have hurt you, the person, the little self. Do you have an obligation to stay in hurtful contact, or does grace intervene and they disappear by themselves out of your life? I know for the self there is no problem whatsoever, but what if you are not there yet completely? And then that was the question. So what I can say to this one is, I'm just going to come back to the camera now. I'm just periodically going to my email. So what I can say to this one is, again, talking from my own direct experience, if you resist, it persists. What you resist not, it falls away in its own accord. And again, it goes back to my earlier statement that everything is vibration. So yeah, it's all good. Yeah, everything is vibration. So there is a reaction that is coming from the neighbors or the family suggestion, then my very reaction is the one that is keeping it alive, because if I react, then and then there is a recipient there, and they continue to react, and when they react to me, what they tell me, there is a receiver on this end. I jump, I react, and it never ends. But as I remain in a state of no reaction, no thought, no vibration, no reaction, as the same analogy applies, that the actors come on stage and there is no audience to listen, they will go back to backstage, and they're not going to continue. So in a way, it will fall away on its own accord, I feel. It has fallen away from me. There is a saying that when you remain true to yourself, to your authentic self, to your calling, and you don't compromise your integrity, then the people you associate with, there was a saying like they either get healed or they fall away. In other words, they either raise to your vibration, to your state where you are, so there is match there on a frequency level, or they fall away. But when it comes to relatives like family members, they might not fall away, but yet they, in a way, still kind of removed from your everyday experience, that there is no disturbance anymore. Like circumstances shape themselves in such a way that as we remain in the non-reacting self, then yes, grace comes into effect, and it's just peace remains. So in my situation, this body, this this life experience happened to parents who are deeply involved in the Orthodox Church stuff, and lots of, how the Orthodox Church comes, like lots of judgment, lots of condemnation, lots of criticism and all that. And for a long, long time, I can't even say I was hurt by it, but the words are like word. They was hurt, fed by it, by the personal sense. But once we see that it's only the personal sense that can get hurt, and the true self is untouched, unaffected by it. Once we see that, then the karma can continue to be played out, but there will be no one being hurt. But at the moment, like in my case, for example, there is just so much peace and absolute no disturbance from anybody. However, would that change in any given moment? Say if my parents would fallen ill, and I would call to go back to Hungary to care for my parents or something, it would not matter at all, because I know now that I am not in the world, I am not in those experiences. Because you see, we think we were born in this life, and we thought all our experience, that our life was progressing somewhere. Our life was progressing towards a future, improving, finding more safety and security for the family or for my loved ones. And we always felt like there was a progression towards something better, hopefully. But no, we know now that this is not a life that is progressing at all. It's not my life. It's only a karmic play, karmic past being played out, and I've got nothing to do with it as the self, in well and truly. So it doesn't really matter what experiences take place, as long as mentally is completely everything renounced and not identified. It doesn't really matter, So um, there was a time when I felt disturbed, or the personal sense felt disturbed by people around me, and but I learned not to react to them, because I know that everybody is myself. Like we are all mirrors, and if there is a reaction in me towards them, It just indicates that I have work to do. Whatever I'm um, judging or reacting or disliking in another person is the very thing I'm not embracing in myself. So, if anything, I learned to be extremely grateful for my immediate environment showing me where am I in consciousness. Otherwise, how would I know that? So it falls away. It falls away, and there is just peace. There is peace and a natural, beautiful unfoldment day to day. You will never really know in advance what's going to happen or what's in store for you. That's what's living by grace. You don't need to know. There is nobody that needs to know anything, because we're never in time anymore. We are always in the eternal now, in this moment, in this second. And in this second and in this now is always beautiful and perfect and peaceful. If I just stay in this eternal now, if I step out of it, then, but I can never step out of it as a self. What I can do is, by not being aware, I invite the personal sense to come in and take and identify with things, and then I'm gone. Then all the problems come. So, and also what I would like to say about you, Patrick, I'm so really happy, Eddie, but Patrick, I'm so happy for you, because I know that you had really deep questions in the beginning, and you were experiencing deep difficulties, and something just, there was like a light, it was like a light coming through for you, like a crack opening up and a light coming just after the last live session you reported. And you also said, I'm going to read this out loud for the people here who feel that they are so disgraced and so unfortunate, and this kind of grace and miracle can happen to some but not to them. That's a bunch of lies, because we all have the equal opportunities right here and now for transcendence, for realization. Nobody is more fortunate or less blessed than the other. So after a couple of messages and the live session, Patrick commented saying, no effort, I feel a glimmering of this for the first time in my life right now. I can feel it in my heart center. It's just amazing. It just is. It's what I needed to hear today, now. No words can describe this feeling of completeness, the absence of the need, the search for anything. What a strange feeling indeed. Yes, it is. It is amazing, and on the road to this, although there is no time and everything is here, but for most of us, the personal sense of falling away of the personal sense, a progressive one, and for most of us, it can be. So where I had a point here. Yeah. So most of us. I just forgotten what I was gonna say. There is so much coming, but I'm trying to kind of slow down and not to say it so quickly anymore, like the first live session. But anyhow, it will come back to me if it is needed. So going back, I know there was something I wanted to say here. It just slipped out, but I know it will come back. I was gonna refer to this one. But anyhow, yes, this is a kind of feeling. Yes, I know what I was going to say. On the road to this, I'm sure that many of you can identify with this one, of the dissolution of the personal sense of self. There's a lot of emptiness, a sense of emptiness comes upon us, and that can be kind of maybe uncomfortable for a while, for quite a while perhaps. It is because the old that we identified with and as for a lifetime is falling away. Everything we knew, we believed in about ourselves, the whole human structure is collapsing. But yet, the one that is in the process of birthing itself is not quite established yet. So that's why we find ourselves in between, like in a so-called no man's land. And I remember, like, my experience has been nobody experienced it, but in the unfolding process, that there was a terror. The person, it was absolutely terrifying to stay in this sense of emptiness, because it felt like a brick wall, like it felt like I was the only one and there's nobody there, as if everything disappearing and just this emptiness stays. And what we do, and I'm sure quite a few of what we do, is we're not able to stay in that sense of emptiness, but we fill it up with activities, because the mind cannot bear it. The mind cannot last, cannot survive in that emptiness, so. And this is why we fill it up with activities, even with spiritual practice. Like the hardest thing for a person who is a seeker or a disciple or a devotee, anyone who has got the intention or the purest intention to be the self, the hardest thing is to stay in the absolute silence without filling it up with any activities. But the truth of it is that reality will not open up in its fullest until one is able to stay in the silence. So, the mind comes, the mind attack, the fear comes, this vasanas, the samskaras, comes the urge to disconnect from this beautiful emptiness, and then, but if we able to remain, say, just for a few minutes and bear the discomfort, the mind has a very short span to stay, and if there's no reaction, it will stop. And if we can just bear those few minutes of maybe absolute terror, to remain in the absolute silence without any crutch, then everything stops. All the fear stops. All that horror stops, and what's left is the beautiful, the infinite, eternal self that I am. And I had to say that because, it's really, really important to be aware that, sometimes, we always experience what we need to experience. If we find ourselves alone and jobless and friendliness, and then that is what the experience we need to go through, and everything is perfect. Let us know that we trust the divine process, and there is nothing wrong anywhere, because if we think something is wrong with my life, with my experience, then that belief will outpicture, and then we will not benefit from the grace that particular experience would bring us in any way. We will just lose the beautiful opportunity, so we just stay with it, and then just bear the discomfort of the aloneness, because that discomfort is only here because the old self, the old structure is falling away, and the new is in the birthing process. However, there is no rebirthing. The rebirthing and the being unborn is nothing but the acceptance of being in the here and now. But it's still a gradual unfoldment of falling away, if you understand what I mean. So I wanted to say this because I had a couple of dialogues with some of you since the last session, and you need to watch yourself, how easily you fall for the mind, how easily you leave the self. God never leaves you, the self never leaves you, you leave the self. And if there was just one thing that we could all do right now, one thing and no more, is to release the thought, the belief that it's not happening for me. From other people, yes, but not for me. If we can just release this disgraced person, because as long as we feel that it's my fault, I am the guilty one, if I had done it differently, if we still continue the old play, that's what we're going to experience. If on this last day of the year, if we allow the old record to play, it's your fault. You should have done better. You should have done differently. Look what you did. Look at you. if this is the thought you hear, there's nothing wrong with the thought. If you don't identify with that, you just say, oh, look at that. The dream character is still kind of, playing up, I'm watching. But if you identify with that and you allow yourself to be pulled down, then your next year and then your next days and the next year will be just as same as this year. Nothing will change. And if, say, for example, you can spend 5 hours a day with practicing, I am the self, I am the onboard, in meditation and all that. But if, say, some incident happens in the afternoon, like what happened 2 months ago, I used this. I poured coffee on my laptop the day before. I poured some coffee on my laptop, and next day my laptop wouldn't start. That was the end of it. And I was kind of really surprised. It was zero reaction to it. Absolutely no reaction. I had a spare laptop, a really old one that barely functioned, but it functioned. It helped me out for the time being. Now I could have beaten myself up. Look at you. You were not careful. Had you been careful, what you did. Now, if you practice 5 hours a day, all the beautiful practice, then you pour coffee on your laptop and your laptop stops working, and you have rage, you have self-hatred, condemnation for yourself, you have just killed all the 5 hours practice, and you're back to square one. You need to understand that everything like that was a karmic. It was karmic. There was nothing I could have done about it. Why? Because I am not the doer of my actions. Ramana Maharishi made it very clear that as long as you identify with body mind, as long as you think you are the actor or doer of your actions, then you will have to suffer the consequences of your actions, be them good or bad. But if you're able to move into that divine neutrality with the understanding that it's only a karmic replay. Maybe I drop my phone tomorrow and it may break. I don't know. I've dropped it a few times. It's still working. But, and if that's what happens, then that's what happened. What does it have to do with me? This is the separation, how we separate ourselves totally and utterly from this so-called world. So I urge you, I ask you for the love of God, for the love of the self, for your own true salvation. That's the only way, not to beat yourself up. No matter what the actions, what you do, you couldn't have done it differently. There was no way you could have done it differently. If you lost your phone, you lost your phone. That was in the karmic replay. End of story. You immediately, you move into that place that we just been in meditation. No past, no future, no history, no nothing to come, just resting in this impersonal universe as the self. In that moment, fulfillment is, completeness is, you will be able to buy a new phone or something will happen. No worries, no problems. So I just wanted to add that. Now let me go to the next question. So very happy for you, Patrick. Wonderful. And whatever you're experiencing is for all of us. We will have the equal opportunity. Now there is one more thing I would like to touch, and then I will come to you, Gabrielle, with your amazing questions like always. Just one more group member. Maybe two. There was one, this is not a long one, an important one. Earl Berrien made a comment on one of my posts saying, this is so hard for me to understand, but I will keep trying. And this was the post. The post was about Yanis appearing to have negative traits. When Ramana Maharishi, Ramana Krishna had cancer and they were suffering, they were in the suffering mode, or they were not, but they were perceived to be in the suffering mode by the disciples, all the physical pain and all that. And maybe I read out loud. This is a short post because that's how we get the most benefit from that. So the post said, you are consciousness, you are pure being. How others see you is up to them. but you become absolute reality. It appears that some yanis have all kind of traits. That's why I give you the example of the electric fan. I posted that today, another one. Their ego has been cut and they are totally free, but the fan is still spinning. Their body is still going through certain acts and doing certain things until it stops completely. That's why there appears to be a certain masters, yanis, that seem to have some negative traits, but that's for the others to pledge. The person who has experienced freedom, liberation, is totally free. And I really, really like the analogy of this fan, because if you imagine a fan, a standing fan, and it's spinning really fast, but as you pull the plug from the socket, it will continue to spin, and it's getting slower and slower and slower until it fully stops. And the same applies to self-realization. When true seeing has taken place by no one, just the self remains, then some vasanas or samsaras are still playing up, which means, so for instance, in this example, the catching cancer or some serious illness, and one wondered why, like if self-realized, seeing the truth, the perfection only, so why is the body suffering and then rotting away in such a horrible way, so to speak? And it's first of all because whatever the body is matter, and whatever comes into time is decomposing, so it is rotting away in any way. It has got no life in it to begin with. But you know, these things are still kind of happening. Say, for example, I remember, so I had, like, say, maybe there was to nobody but true seeing taking place, really like this big aha, like, wow, my goodness, oh my God, truth is so simple. And all my life I spent 20 years learning and practicing, and all I ever had to do is just let everything go. And there was this moment of seeing, right? And after this, the suggestions, perhaps if something happens, suggestions will still come, from the mind. But they come, but there is no more reaction, or less reaction, or no more reaction after the truth. But for a while, it's still going on. And the same here, the same way. That's right. I mean, it's hard to understand. Let us keep in mind that nothing is possible to understand by the mind. Nothing what we're speaking of here. We have to go beyond the mind and hear it from a much deeper place. That's what it is. That is the answer to this one in short, that I could say. And now I'm coming to Eric Spartan. You made a statement, and I honestly don't understand what the question is. If you can just be a little more specific with this one next time, I will be very, very happy to answer the question. And if you said, please enlighten me, for mind sees with vision, visualization with sharp image, as it is, while thinking through the thoughts with blur vision comes with duality. So it's a nice statement. I just don't know what the question is. So if you can tell me what the question is, I will be able to answer. However, I'm back to you, and there is something I can address to you. And you said there was again a post, and then you said drawing out our inner feelings and forgetting about our subconscious mind. Is it? Please enlighten. Not sure what the statement means. So it's an important post, so I'm just going to read it. It was a very short one, so quickly, and answer to this question. The world can give you what you believe, nothing more, nothing less. What comes to you are your deep inner feelings. What you attract into your life are your deep inner feelings, your subjective feelings that some of you don't even know that you have. Your programming from this life and previous existences. Perhaps you have forgotten at this stage of your life, but the subconscious mind never forgets. It always remembers. each one of you is drawing into his or her life that which you believe and feel in your subconscious. So the answer to this one, we heard the terminology before, as within, so without. Everything happens within first. Nothing can be seen in our experience out there until it is felt within. And that is true for both the so-called good and the so-called bad. So the thing is, we can spend our life affirming and saying mantras and all that, and it's all on the level of the mind. Because our life, in a way, what he means by this is outpictured. I mean, it's a bit tricky to answer because everything is karmic, so everything is preordained. But within that, everything is outpictured, not based on what we are reciting every single day, mantra or words, but what we're holding in our subconscious as a belief, a reality. That is what gets outpictured. And for some of us who are really, really trying not to react and all that, and not to feel unfortunate, it is so deeply engraved in our subconscious, that belief, that until and unless that gets uprooted, that is what is going to continue to run our life. And the only way we can uproot those beliefs, again, it goes down to non-reaction, because as we do not react, slowly they lose their power over us, and they slow down, the mind slows down until it completely disappears. So perseverance, patience is also needed here. So with this understanding, it's very important to understand that if I react today, if I get upset, then tomorrow I'm going to, my so-called tomorrow or next week of next year, I'm going to have the same challenge, maybe in different disguise, but the same thing. It will keep coming and coming and coming until I'm able to no longer blame myself for anything, because I'm not even there. I just, in the morning when I woke up, I so deeply separated myself from this world, the body, and all the activities, that it doesn't touch me. And that one comes with practice. So that is what that means. You cannot forget the subconscious. As a person, there's nothing you can do. You can't do anything about it. All you can do is, at this stage of unfoldment, to remain the witness, to be the witness to all of the activities without any reaction. You just remain. And the question always comes, and there was another question today, somebody saying, how? This is always a question, how? I tell you how. It's not a doing. It cannot be a doing. It's a being. And even though at first it may be like, I'm not able to do it, but as our intention remains pure, that there is no other desire but to be the one, to be at one, here and now already, without any contortion, any processes, then grace will come. Because grace is always around us, but it can only, grace or self is the same, capital self. It can only come to its own self. It cannot flow to a me. It can only flow to its own like. So this is why the absolute re-identification. Sometimes we need it 500 times a day. Throughout the 24 hour, perhaps 500 times, suggestion would come from the mind about things that is not true. And 500 times a day we need to stand true to our true inner vision that we had in the morning, which is a true self. We have to stay true to that. That's the only way about it. Sorry. I'm still recovering from the cold, but doing all right today. Not coughing much. So thank you for that. Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate all your questions and your participations. That's very good. So now we're here with Gabriel with his amazing questions, very deep questions. So they are very good, and I must say that with one of them, I still would like to sit with for a while because the question is really great. But sometimes, the more full answer or the more full comes when you're sitting with that. Now, I didn't have a lot of time to sit with that because which is no problem at all. You can always write the questions came yesterday, so there was a very short period. But I do have something to say to the second question as well. But I would like to stay with that myself. It's a really, really good one and interesting one. But let's just get to the first one. You said, we are absolute consciousness, absolute reality, God, all that is. When we realize this intellectually and emotionally in a complete and profound way, we can stop reincarnating. So what would reincarnate in us is the error of considering ourselves a body, a mind, and making this mortal dream too vivid, a confusion identified with egoic ignorance. What reincarnates would be a drop of the entire ocean of Brahman identified with being an ego. Can you comment on this topic, please? So immediately after reading this question, the answer came right away. And what I can say to you about this is that what is incarnation? What is the world but a thought? So when the belief about a world ceases in our consciousness, when there is no word, when there is no thought about it, then there will be no world to incarnate into. The reason why this incarnation, which is not, but say takes place in the dream, is because of the belief that there is a world. But once the belief is gone, once the consciousness is totally purified from the belief of form existence, then there will be no world to incarnate into. It only comes because of the accepted belief and identification with things. So I wouldn't even say, how did you phrase it, like a drop of the entire ocean of Brahman identified with being an ego. I wouldn't even say that because nothing, not even a drop, comes into form existence. It just doesn't happen. It only comes into the dream. And this is why for the sage, for the Jnani, for the one who is completely purified from the belief of a worldly existence, then there is no world to incarnate. And that's the last one. And just to add, came to awareness again, even if they have got the body playing out, like the pain, all that, they say, what does it matter how the body hurts or what? This is for the last time. This is for the last. And they know that. Because they've been completely purified, completely the mind, and completely nullified in their consciousness, knowing that there never was birth and they will never be that, only the self that I am, the unborn self. Yeah. It just comes to me just for one moment. Sorry for jumping. When I come to unborn, when something important came to me. It's not enough to see ourselves throughout the day as unborn selves, as I am the unborn. I'm not here. Unless we see this in the so-called human travelers as well, our families, friends, colleagues, whoever we encounter with, unless we're able to perceive them also as the unborn self, then we have not identified correctly still, because true re-identification is that I'm not just a spiritual self, invisible spiritual self, localized at a particular moment in time, but I am the spiritual self. I am the life of every being on the planet and beyond, which means I am the only one. So we need to be able to see everybody as the unborn self. And you know what? Only to the extent, to the authentic, true identification of the self I am, will I be able to see you as you truly are. The deeper the identification with form that I am, the more I'm seeing myself as a form, the more I will see you in a form as well, or everybody else, to that degree. Everything is the same degree. But if I'm truly, that the realization, the recognition took place, that feeling experience, and Robert does say it with every principle, that I have the understanding and the feeling. It has to be a felt experience, otherwise I don't have it. I'm still on the mental realm, that I am the unborn self, but I need to add that and everybody else too. And only then my identification is correct, because then I am the omnipresent self, the one self. So I just moved to add that one because I left that one out before. So thank you for this first question. That was great. And then now I'm going to move to the next question, which is a very good one, a very deep one. I read that Robert mentions that our only freedom regarding our destiny is to avoid reacting to what happens to us. Everything else in our lives is preordained. But to be able to not react to life situations involves growth and understanding that I understand comes from a process that is also preordained. Do you think that Robert, for didactic reasons, I had to Google this word down, it said tutorial or teaching purposes, didactic reasons, proposed that we have the free will not to react, although this non-reaction would also be predetermined by a previous process of maturation of mental habits, understanding, experiences that become this. What do you think about that? Well, first I had to read this whole thing about 3 times, to really fully get the meaning of the question, which then I could see the depth of it. It's a very, very good question. So I'm going to only share with you my understanding of this up until now. And as I said, I will sit with this for the coming days and see what else is coming. Like, everything is preordained. And as you said, so there is a reaction, and the reaction is preordained. And when there is no reaction, that is preordained. But I would say it's the natural consequence of my previous non-reaction. So once I deviate from reactioning, then it alters my next day, the next day, the so-called future, which is not bad. It alters even the responses. But in a way, like, yes, everything is preordained, and that is also preordained. But I would use this natural consequence, like automatic consequence of my not reacting. And as you said, it's a progression. It's a progression. It's a maturing thing, because first we understand it, but then the mind is still very, very strong, and then it takes a lot of inquiries, ongoing inquiries, and practice until no longer needed the practice to see to whom does that come. And with that ongoing practice, the tendencies of the vasanas, the mind suggestions are lessening, and as they're lessening, the rest reaction, then then there is no reaction. So that is in a way um, preordained. But this very little bit I feel like I would like to stay with that, in the coming days, in my deeper silence, and also experiment with that. So this is the answer I could give you for now. So thank you so much for this very, very good and deep question. It's nice to look so deep into it, and understanding it. And then of course we also understand that only the mind needs to understand, because the mind needs to know things, but it's still very much appreciated, all of the questions. Without the questions, this life would not be here. The questions and your statements fuel this. So I very much appreciate it, and I invite all of you to even if you would like me to elaborate on a topic or something that is kind of harder to grasp or something, I'm very happy to do that. So there comes this last question, and this will be the last thing. Then we're going to be closing. How long I've been doing? I think we will be less than last time, which is good. Last time was a really long one, 2 hours. This time is a bit shorter, I think. So it says, I read a book about Nagarjuna, a great enlightened and wise Buddhist, who mentions that the void to which Buddhism refers is a void free of characteristics, since there are no words that describe the ineffable. He speaks in very similar terms to Robert or Romana, and he says that in the ineffable Tao, or we could say Brahman, things exist, they do not exist, they exist, and they do not exist, and they neither exist nor do they exist. Can the same be said about absolute reality, absolute consciousness, what we are, this infinite grace that is ourself, that ourself is the ineffability of it, exists, does not exist, exists, does not exist, neither exists nor does not exist. Can we think this about this nature of ourself, purely good, compassionate and loving? So what do you think about this? And you will enjoy listening. Well, I trust you do. Again, I'm not a philosopher either, like not holding much knowledge at all. Actually, whatever knowledge I had, I let it go, but the responses again that come to me is from my direct authentic experience based on this teaching. So I would say we can say the same thing to absolute reality and consciousness. It exists but doesn't exist, because we would only say that something exists if there is something doesn't exist. Like, we would say, okay, so we only say I'm tall if there is somebody that is short. So otherwise we wouldn't say it. It would be just it. And so if I say it exists but there's nothing opposite to it, then it doesn't exist. But then, because there's nothing opposite to it, self is all there is. And the nature of the self, as such, like peace, compassion, joy, harmony, fulfillment, and all that. And then but this is not this is experience, not the words are so hard to speak words, because I know there's nothing experienced, but in this world it's experienced as the positive as opposed to the negative. But this is it. When we live in the middle, when we are in the middle, like we're not in time, and we're not identifying with body mind, when we're not trying to work out our problems or find solution to the problems, but just be in the timeless, unborn, eternal self as the self, then everything just naturally out pictures as the harmony, as the peace, as the fulfillment. But that is not in opposed to the negative. It's not a path of the opposite to what we experienced before, when we live by grace. It's coming from a totally different realm. It's very, very different. So we can say that, but again, truth is paradox, so, and the words, I did talks before many times, but I never felt the difficulty like I do now. When I say words, I feel like I'm lying. That's not true what I'm saying, because the words will always bring dualism. It's not possible. The minute we open our mouth, we already in the dualism, but that's why we need to discern, and the words only really mean to what meaning we give to them, because otherwise they're totally meaningless, and totally utterly meaningless. So yeah, this is my answer to this one. I feel nothing exists, yet only I exist, and this consciousness is nothing opposite to that. So, well, I think I have covered everything today. I thank you so much for being here, and I welcome your questions, your feedback, your sharing, your beautiful journey, the share of your journey, and I am with everybody, and everybody is here with me. There's only oneness, and as we step into this so-called new year, which is only new to the mind, just please know that we're not stepping anywhere, we're not going anywhere, we're not trying to improve humanhood, we're not trying to solve any problems. Whatever problems we might have in any department, in life area, is already solved, as we are able to find that contact in the timeless realm, in the eternal now. There's only fulfillment, there is only harmony, and we just take that with us everywhere. And our problems are always solved the moment the peace dawns in consciousness, in the midst of chaos. The problem is not solved when the solution appears to the mind. The problem of any kind is solved in the moment when the peace comes. Peace comes only as we give up the identification with problems, with a disgraced self, an unfortunate self, a helpless self, and just identify, I am here and now. It's always here and always now, and one self. And then everything will unfold beautifully for us. No outline. We never know anything anymore. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We just know that I'm here and now, and all is well. And that is living by grace, and the most beautiful way to live. So thank you, everyone. I'm coming back to the camera now. I was still at the questions, and I shall see you again. I am in 1 week time. If there's any questions, a topic comes on, sometimes a session like this invokes even more questions or other areas, and I'm very happy to go there, because we do need to have the understanding. Once the understanding is here, it's a matter of self-obedience and perseverance. But without the understanding, we're going to keep going back into that sense of human self. So wonderful. So peace to all, love to all, and I see you very soon. Bye for now.